interlaced with each other. Anyway, that's exactly it. It kind of came from that, and now I have, like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 different turbans that I had made, and 10 or 12 loud coats and outfits, and I will wear them in the wrestling shows, and people go wild, because, you know, I had one, you know what, I'm going to just say it, I don't even care. I had an outfit made of pure silk, marabou, and I think it was 180,000 Swarovski crystals, and it cost me $13,000 for this outfit, and it almost looks like a nudie suit. You know those country stars that wore those flashy suits back in the day?
Yes, that was a big thing in the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah, combine that and then wear over it like silk and chiffon robe like Gorgeous George would wear.
Sure.
Use those two together and give it a turban and a wrap-around shade.
That's fantastic.
And that's what I would walk to do color commentary wearing. Like, you know, a little nuts.
That's awesome, though, man, because that shows that, without question, you are a huge fan of the art form of professional wrestling, and
absolutely,
you are not afraid to invest in yourself and invest in who you are. And that's a big part, in my guesstimation, that's a big part of being successful, is having no hesitation in regards to investing in yourself.
Listen, you know, I'll tell you something. I'll keep this quick, but, you know, when I sat at commentary wearing that outfit, every single match, the fans were still looking at me. Didn't matter who came in and who did what. You spot, you win, you go over, and then they're looking back over at me. That whole show, they were looking at me. There was a promo Bruiser Brody did. I don't remember. I'm not going to talk about it much more than just what I know. But he was told not to speak, and they were going to give the spot to somebody else. And he took a light bulb and just stuck it in his mouth and just stared at the camera. And so it didn't matter what the other guy was saying. All the viewers at home were watching Brody with this light bulb in his mouth, wondering, is it going to light up like Uncle Fester? Is he going to eat it? No, he's just sitting there with the fucking light bulb in his mouth. And it speaks volumes. Like, that type of thing speaks volumes. You know, oh, guess what? Your best guy that you're trying to put over don't even care to be the end because they're still looking at me. Give me my spot. I want my main event. Pay me. And that's how you get it.
That's the work.
Sometimes how you have to get it.
That's a huge part of the work, because the work, I think there's a big misunderstanding with a lot of folks in the wrestling business today, and that they think the work is a series of moves and high spots that you do inside the ring. That's not the work. The work is exactly what you're describing, because even with you being on commentary, you made sure to get yourself over. And it's not to slight anybody else, it's just the fact of, you know, wrestling is a unique business because you're a part of a team, but at the same time, it's very much individualistic. I mean, we all are trying to get noticed. We all are trying to make sure that we make an impression on the fans, on the boys, on the promoters, most importantly. Well, I should say the fans most importantly, but the promoter's the one, of course, that'll actually pay you and get you booked. But, you know, we're all jockeying for that position. So, you know, thinking outside the box, understanding the psychology, and making that work for you. I mean, man, that's the work, man. That's awesome. Now, before we wrap up this episode of Radio Dark, and Mysterion, this is without question been the most fun episode I've done to date, because, like, honestly, I have a great deal of respect for what you do, and honestly, yours truly, David Barnabas Spector, doesn't have respect for a lot of individuals because they are so mentally inferior to myself that normally they're not worth my time, effort, and energy. But you are an extremely unique individual. I have the utmost respect for everything that you do in and outside of the wrestling business. Another topic that we talk about here on Radio Dark is the paranormal. So myself, some of the individuals that I manage within Darkness Worldwide, where we're located here in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio area, not too far from us in Wilder, Kentucky, is a building a music venue, a very haunted music venue called Bobby Mackey's, which I'm sure you've probably heard of in your travels. So we spent Halloween night at Bobby Mackey's and had some rather interesting experiences. I'm originally from upstate New York. Seems to be a lot of activity in New York. I had my own personal experiences. You have had your share of paranormal events, especially when you were a child, all the while kind of telling them what we're talking about, being a child, loving wrestling, watching wrestling. Go ahead. I definitely would love to hear your story.
I'll tell you in a nutshell. This has also been on the show Ghostly Encounters. There was a program, I don't know if it's still on the air or not, but a number of years ago they interviewed me for this. So what aired on Ghostly Encounters does have a follow-up that I experienced, and I'm going to tell you both situations right now. So when I was a kid, I moved into a house in Toronto with my family, who was primarily my grandparents and their siblings and me. My mom and dad were very young when I was born. They were teenagers, actually, and they were living in their own individual homes, but I kind of jumped all over the place. But that being said, I lived in this house with my family, and every day I would come home from school. There would be no one home. I would just let myself in, and shit happened. Like, I'd go to the bathroom, I would go back to the living room, and the taps would still be running. Or I would go to watch Saturday morning cartoons. I'd go into the kitchen to get cereal. And I put things away. I've always been meticulous about stuff like that. I'm very OCD. And I would go back into the other room, and then I would come back to get maybe a fruit roll-up, and the fridge is open and the milk is out. And I'm like, something's up. And, hey, is that Tommy up? Like, there's no one there. This kept up. I would wake up in the morning. I'd wake up in the night, and there would be a figure of a woman in the room staring at me. My arm is, my hair is going up right now, telling you this. The dog wouldn't go into certain rooms. Guests would come over, see animals that weren't there. Everyone in my family experienced it. Some of us saw it. My cousin from Europe came over, and when my grandmother was ill, she was dying in hospital, and she ended up staying upstairs in her room, and then my grandfather stayed downstairs in my room. So they gave the bed to her, and she woke up one morning and said, "Who the hell was in the room last night walking around and moving things?" And there was no one in the room. And she said there was a woman walking around. Anyway, this happened so much. No one ever got hurt or anything. It was just this apparition that fucking scared the crap out of a 10-year-old kid, So one day I'm standing outside in the backyard. Now, the backyard wasn't big by any means, but it was big enough that, to randomly find this by chance was pretty slim. And I was sitting on the back little cement step thing that was there, and I had this inkling it was almost like something was telling me to walk into the middle of the garden and put my hand into the ground, and I dug a hole, and I found like an old lead toy soldier from like the 20s, and I was like, what the fuck? So I'm like, nope, I don't want it. The house is giving it to me. I don't want it. And then, like, brave, I don't even get this. I would not do this now. I go into the house, down into the fucking basement, into the back wood, like this little workshop, and I literally, like, crushed it in a vice, like one of those table vices, and threw it away. I didn't want it. So anyway, we eventually moved out of the house. Fast forward to 2006 or 2007. I'm with my dad and his daughter, who is my half-daughter, obviously, and half-sister, and we're driving by the house because she's going to visit her friend who lives on the same street. Now, my father would not remember I lived in that house. I mean, he was around, but it's not going to be on his radar. Yet alone telling his kid daughter that the house is haunted. He wouldn't even know. There's no way. We're driving by this house, and she says, this is where I'm going. And I said, hey, you see that house over there? I grew up in that house. And she goes, oh, my friend Tanner lives there. I go, oh, you know someone who lives there? Okay. I swear to God I left it at that. Nothing said, nothing more. A few weeks later, I'm at a bar mitzvah. And my dad's side of the family is Jewish. My mom's side is Catholic. I mean, think of the guilt of that. But I'm at this bar mitzvah. And this kid comes up to me and goes, you're Kaylee's brother. I go to school there. Oh, that's cute. He goes, I live in your old house. And I kind of look at him. I'm like, oh, that's cool. fucking bar mitzvah. You can't tell the kid it's haunted. Like, don't do it, right? So I said to him, look, I said, do you think it's haunted? And he goes, well, you know, I see things, and da-da-da-da-da. And what I did was I said, look, tell me what you see. And he goes, I'm ready to shit myself. The kid goes, I see a woman at the end of the bed. And I'm like, what, right? So I go, oh, no. I go, dude, that's not real. And I go, listen, I'm here, I'm fine, you're going to be fine, right? So he kind of gives me this look. Like, he knew I was holding back. I get a phone call on Monday morning from his mom going, we need to know if the house is haunted. And I said, if I tell you what I experienced, I'm not responsible for scaring your kids and keeping them up all night. And I said, I want them to tell me first. And I swear to God, David, they told me every damn thing we experienced, I experienced, they had been experiencing. This was fucking 20 years later, give or take, 17, 18 years later. So I thought, okay, something's up with the house. I tried to do research on it. I couldn't find anything. I don't have access to those records prior to it being built. I don't know what's there. Last year I had surgery, and my girlfriend and I I think I was going to get the bandages off or something, and it was near the neighborhood of the house. We went for lunch in one of the diners that are nearby that I hadn't been to in years. And I said, let's just walk by it. I'll show you this house. And as we're walking by, the current tenant, the owner, is in the driveway working on his car. And I get his attention, and I tell him, I had happy memories living here. And I tried to sort of tell him I knew the neighbors, because I knew they were still there. The old neighbors were still there for like a zillion years. So once I mentioned that, he kind of realized I wasn't some fucking thief or something. Anyway, he goes, do you want to come in the house? And I'm thinking to myself, I don't think so. But I'm going, yes, I do. So we go in the house. It was like a different house. I mean, it was like renovated and modern. And the basement had been completely gutted into one giant room where there used to be four. And it was really small. Like, the house was so small. I remembered it being much more than it was. So we're walking around. I'm meeting his kids, his mom, whatever. There's a bunch of children. I do some tricks for them. And then we go outside. And I swear to God, may COVID end my career for life. I'm not making up a single word. This is no work. We're standing on the driveway, and I'm saying goodbye to the one neighbor and him and whatever, and I'm saying goodbye. I call an Uber. As I say goodbye, and I look up at the house, and I say, I think I mentioned to him, where's the ghost? He said, the ghost is gone. I look up at the house, and I say, goodbye, house. I feel a hand grab my arm, and I was wearing, those Japanese Sukajan jackets? It's almost like a bomber jacket. Yes. You can see the cloth push in where the hand grabbed me. I felt my arm, like it was real. And my girlfriend standing like 3 feet away looks right at me and looks down and notices it too. And I just I'm like, dude, I am stunned. Just stunned. It was like something out of a movie. And I just went, thank you for acknowledging me. And it was around that point the Uber pulls up, and I went into the Uber stunned. Do you want to know something? I have not been afraid of the house since. I've been spooked by that house since 1984. And I have not been spooked by it since. Wow. It was the weirdest, most surreal experience I have ever had in my life, and it has absolutely no explanation. I can actually say I do fully believe that there was a conscious presence in this building. Yeah, from your description of what was in the house, and for anyone listening, if you want to see the television clip that you had mentioned earlier where you recount the story, you can find it on YouTube, because I actually watched that earlier today as well. But your recollection of what you saw, I mean, the only thing that I can think is that perhaps it was a mother who lost a child, and for whatever reason, So I actually did it. I did do a little bit of homework and tried to put a few